Enabling patients, I said already, diet, exercise, those are all obvious issues. I'm a Star Trek guy. I'm not a Star Trek, I'm not a Trekker, but I'm a borderline Star Trek person. I've been watching a lot of the repeats of Next Generation. The holodeck. What is the holodeck? It was obviously Roddenberry's interpretation of the need for vacation time in deep space. And that's what it's all about. If anyone who's seen the show knows that. And then, of course, the original Star Trek, permission granted for shore leave. I think that the people who wrote that show really knew of the need for vacation time, and they did popularize that. Again, it's the right thing for my staff, patients, and myself as well. I'm not suggesting I take 1 million weeks off a year, but I try to space my vacation time out. I try to make sure I get away to interesting places that relax my mind, that we usually hike, my wife and I, throughout the country. She's a marathon runner, so we try to get wherever we can get, and we always have hiking as part of that. And you get away from nature, and it's important to do, and I tell my patients that. Obviously, the macho issues I talked about already. Let me move on. So I'm going to talk about paid vacation as seen by me as a small businessman, because that's something that's important that gets addressed very often. So first of all, obviously the bill, as those who have read it or have heard about it in the press, it really handles larger corporations greater than 100 or greater than 50. So I don't even know what the word small business even correlates to this exactly, because by my definition, small business is me probably, 35, 40 employees, which is not to say that I'm not in favor, certainly, of small businesses giving paid vacation time. But I did one show on radio, and right after the callback came from an individual, almost like John's idiot person. Well, that doctor obviously has a small office, obviously doesn't take care of people, he obviously makes too much money, or 10 other things he talked about. And I kind of wanted to go back and call this guy up and say, you are the exact person who needs vacation time. And in fact, he has like 3 employees. I have a pretty good sized 40-person payroll I have to handle. So, I have a pretty large sized corporation to run. And I think I understand quite well what is needed for paid vacation time. But there's a lot of real misunderstanding about the public, and particularly the small business community, about the need for this. I think large corporations kind of are on board because more or less they function with 1 or 2 employees missing at any given time. They're used to it. I think it's these frenetic computer programming, 12 people in an office who think every minute of their life they have to be producing. And it doesn't make sense, and I think they're the ones who have it completely backwards, and they don't understand the need for that. Certainly, again, I've been running my office for 23 years. I started my office from the ground up, and I run the office, I watch payroll, and I don't feel in any way, shape, or form I'm compromised by having 2, 3, 4 weeks of vacation time for my staff. I think it's something that's necessary. I recognize the high-stress environment we work in, and it is stressful. A physician's office, I was having breakfast with someone this morning, and it's complicated running a general medical practice where people come in, they call the front desk receptionist, and they tell them, I'm coming in for an upper respiratory infection. I get in the exam room, how are you, Mrs. Jones? It's nice to see you. And before you know it, she's discussing her depression, her marital problems, and things like that. And I have to spend 25, 30 minutes that I expected to be 7 minutes, and I had no choice, and now I'm backed up, and the next people are getting annoyed about it. It's a stressful environment. My staff lives within that environment. They get more heat than I get, actually, because I'm the doctor, and they get the stress that the patients yell, where is Dr. Pallay? Why is he not coming in to see me right now? Well, he's taking care of patients, he's doing what he has to do. So my staff lives with a lot of stress, and they need their vacation time as much as I need that as well. So paid vacation time as a family physician. It's all the above health, emotional benefits, as I talked about. I said there's a strong component, I find, using the newer electronic health records that the President Obama is pushing, and I think that will help. It's a very peculiar anomaly. Some people think, computerized records, they're cold, they're distant, they'll make the provision of health care worse in this country and more standoffish, and I argue exactly the opposite. I feel strongly that an electronic health record, and I'm not going to digress onto that too long, but I do lecture about that constantly. It provides a very simplified basis for your charting that I think makes it much easier for patient care to be rendered in a way that is more comfortable. I have much more time in my record to talk about the New York Giants football, go Giants, to talk about vacation time and stuff like that. because I have it in a healthcare record doesn't have to be reduplicated every single time. So that's important as a family physician. As I said, I talked about when and where was your last vacation, and at least for a lot of interesting conversation that is helpful in the dynamics of physician-patient reaction. I have patients, even though I'm in a fairly affluent community in suburban New York environs, many of them work 3 jobs. And I feel bad for them that they have that. Now, we can't do anything to take away their needs for financials to do the 3 jobs, but I stand very comfortably in front of this group and in front of media people when I speak to them. A $12 an hour individual who works 30 hours a week at a job, that's $360. That's going to make or break the bottom line of any particular business. I don't buy it. I think it's a bunch of baloney, and I think we have to call them on that question, because these people, if they can get at least 1 or 2 weeks of vacation time in the first job, then in their second and third job, at least there's some respite in the middle there. But I worry about someone who's going to drive my subway, train, or build my car that my kids is going to drive, and they are working 3 jobs and haven't had a vacation in 3 years. I don't want that person to run my public transportation product. And we need to make that point clear, I think. So we have to practice what we preach, and I try to do that. The last piece of that 3 I'm talking about is paid vacation as a political physician, because I am kind of a political physician doing a lot on many subjects. And, you know, a lot of the politicians I speak to, I think they understand the correctness of the cause, but I think that a lot of them fear the reaction of small business and the cost to consumer. If we explain that more carefully, they'll be clear about that. I think we can turn this into a popular bill that can really have a lot of grassroots support if we make the point clearer, many of the things that Joe talked about before. My patients, on the other hand, love this. I have not had one patient, not one, maybe one, that wacky guy who calls us idiots, who's seen any of my videos or any of my interviews while they're in the exam room, because I'll play a piece that I'm on and they'll have a conversation about it, and they all think it's the way to go. And I think we'll have a tremendous amount of support if we get the message out of this type of a vacation summit, etc. A lot of them are unaware. This is shocking. A lot of them are completely taken by surprise by the lack of paid vacation time in America. So that's another thing that we all need to get that across. All right. There's a funny word now someone made up in one of these interviews. I'm a paid vacation advocate. I didn't know it, but they said, what should we write down, Dr. Pallay? I don't know. Paid vacation advocate. And so I just laughed. I don't like the picture, but I get teased in my office now. There goes the baby vacation advocate. You know, it's sort of funny. And this is some things I've been on that are interesting. To me, it's mom and apple pie. It's a modest bill, as John likes to say time and time again. We all know about that. And I just came back from St. Martin's Sea Caves in Halifax, Bay of Fundy, beautiful. And I appreciate coming here to speak about it. I'm trying to handle the Northeast Corridor for John and some of the media areas there. My website has a few of these pieces I've been putting on there because I tell media people or patients who want to hear about this. But I think this is an obvious issue, and I think it's something that if we get the right picture across to our patients as a physician, to our colleagues and friends as lay people, I think they'll support it and put the pressure on the leaders in Congress to pass this bill. And I believe a guy like President Obama would sign this bill if presented to him. That's my story. Thanks for having me, okay?